Welcome all, this is Commodore from Tyrs Paladium, and welcome to our 2023 State of the Game podcast. I am roaring to go, lots to talk about. I'd like to first bring up that Tyrs Paladium is going nowhere. We had a great 2022, and we're got a ton of plans for 2023. So first up for dibs, what's new in 2023? Merch. We are going to have official Tyrs Paladium merchandise available to purchase. So we're really excited about that. Pax and I have been talking about this for a long time. So we're going to do it. So more on that later. I would also like to talk about the games that we're currently in. Dungeons and Dragons Online, going wonderful. Going to start raiding again. Can't wait to get in and do that. Neverwinter is, and the Neverwinter Alliance, still going strong. Some reports that it's a little quieter than usual, but I have faith in the leaders in both Neverwinter and the Neverwinter Alliance, and they're doing everything they can. And I'm going to work together with them with recruiting to get those, to keep those numbers up and maybe even go higher. We have Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 is it's just exploding. I'm thinking that they're going to have a very good year in 2023. So I'm excited about that. ESO, we've got a little bit of work to do with boosting the leaders and the officers up. So we're going to work closely with our ESO chapter to make sure that happens for all of our members there. So I'm not worried about that one in the slightest. I think ESO is going to have an extremely good, Tyrs ESO chapter is going to have an extremely good year this year. I'm looking up for ESO throughout the year and into next year and future years. I think ESO has a strong future for Tyrs Paladium and for the game itself. Path of Exile, similar to ESO, we have some work to do with officers and leaders there. We are going to stick with PoE. I think Path of Exile is a great game, and I think that there's a bright future in 2023 for that chapter as well. Baldur's Gate 3 is going to launch this year, I believe in the summer. Looking forward to that as well. I am upbeat on that game in a big way, and I'll get into that in a little bit. So without further ado, I would like to talk about Guild Wars 2. I wanted to thank the leaders there. Just incredible participation in that guild. You guys have taken on Discord like a storm. It's just been, you guys are using it and setting up parties, and I'm just loving what I see when I log on to Discord. You guys are always busy, always playing, and I enjoy speaking to everyone in the guild when I get a chance. I've been getting in Discord more, so when I get on, people say hi and let me know that they're really enjoying their time. So Guild Wars 2, Ace is high, you guys are doing wonderful, and I'm just really excited about the Guild Wars 2 chapter in Tyrs Paladium. News for Guild Wars 2. 2022 was a big year for Guild Wars 2, I think, looking at previous years. There's more End of Dragons content coming. New expansion is in early development. I'm excited about that, which makes me really excited for Guild Wars 2. Let's see, ArenaNet is looking back on 2022 saying that this year was one of the best years for Guild Wars 2 in recent memory. They've also revealed that the next expansion is in early development. In a year in review dev blog, the team noted that End of Dragons is going to release in late February, and went on to outsell Path of Fire, the last expansion, by April. Guild Wars 2 celebrated its 10th anniversary this year. Wow. And also made it over to Steam. In the background, we've been working quietly on our next content update, and we began early development on our 4th expansion, marking the first real comment since announcing a 4th expansion would happen. The return of Living World Season 1 was also one of the highlights, since not only did it bring back content that had been unplayable for 8 years, but it made that content free and permanently available. This meant that those who started later could get a glimpse of what this story content was all about, but having access now, even for those that were around for the original release, meant being able to complete achievements and more options for content and instances. So that's really cool stuff like that. In April, when announcing End of Dragon's success, they noted that the active player count had more than doubled over the past several years. Yet with this year in review, the picture is looking even brighter. This year, we've already seen more players venture into Tyria for the first time since 2015, the year we made the base game content playable for free and launched our first expansion. So similar to DDO, which just exploded with free-to-play model, which was really Turbine, Standing Stone Games. They were the first ones to really take a retail, at that point, a retail game and turn it into a free-to-play model. They took that chance. They went to Japan, figured it out, and they were the first ones to succeed. And DDO is still a game because of that experiment back in 2008 and 9. So yeah, so I'm not surprised that Guild Wars 2 is benefiting from that experience like that, and playing in their own game environment and business model and whatnot. So what's next? More End of Dragons content. They promise an update on Q1 plans early 2023, but previously mentioned stuff like World vs. World restructuring and the DirectX 11 transition are coming. So yeah, it should be a great 2023 for Guild Wars 2. And thank you all for making your presence in-game and making our guild look really, really great in Guild Wars 2, especially for what we're about. So yeah, thank you. Cool stuff from Guild Wars 2. Elder Scrolls Online. Like I said, we've got a little bit of work to do with leadership. I'm not worried about in the least the officer. There are officers and other members helping out and doing what officers normally do in ESO. And, you know, I love that. And I know that we're going to have some hands raised in ESO that are willing to step up and help the guild out. I'm starting to see that. And the next update I'll have in ESO, you know, we'll get into names and thanking everyone by name. But thank you very, very much for stepping up. But we have more to go on ESO for sure. You know, I'm really upbeat on ESO this year in 2023. You know, and I'm reading article after article, and you know, from gamer rags saying that in gamer websites, gamer rags. I'm showing my age. You know, that Elder Scrolls Online could end up influencing Elder Scrolls 6 more than even Skyrim. And that's a holy cow right there. I had a feeling like that for a long, long time about Elder Scrolls Online, and I always said since I started the game that it should influence, the next Skyrim, right, or the Elder Scrolls 6. I'm not surprised that as great as Skyrim was, Skyrim took a dead RPG market. Everyone thought that sadly that RPGs were, that we'd never see another great one, and then bam, Skyrim came out and just changed the game and elevated it again. So we were so happy and proud of Skyrim, but Elder Scrolls Online, as soon as I played it, I knew, oh man, there's got to be more. It's got to influence the next generation of Elder Scrolls, and sure as shooting, I'm starting to see that. My favorite article about this was Gamer Rant recently, 5 days ago, wrote about this. And they have some great things to say. Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, an open world RPG with enduring popularity, critical acclaim, has been one of the most successful games of all time. While some fans of Elder Scrolls are eagerly awaiting Elder Scrolls 6 to be released, they'll have a long time to wait as Bethesda is focusing on another game, Starfield. Boo. Anyway, however, since the Skyrim release, Elder Scrolls Online has emerged as a powerful force in its own right, so much so that it will probably have more impact on the development of the sequel to Skyrim than Skyrim itself. It goes on here, and we'll skip some of this. Anyone who has played the Elder Scrolls Online knows that the game is the best way to explore everything Tamriel has to offer, from Daggerfall to elsewhere. The game allows players to travel freely between locations. Depth and breadth of ESO's map might be echoed in the Elder Scrolls 6, primarily if the game uses a similar system of transport between worlds. ESO also allows players to have mounts that aren't horses, as we know. Players can ride camels, blah, 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 blah. Skyrim players would also notice that ESO features an upgrade in combat. While combat functions similarly to popular MMO like World of Warcraft or RuneScape, it's a refreshing change from previous Elder Scroll titles. Goes on and on. Let's see. ESO lore, enemies, and locations might be in Elder Scrolls 6. Elder Scrolls Online might be packed with more lore than all of the previous games in the franchise combined. This is because the game not only calls back to the lore in previous titles, but has created new lines exclusive to the MMO. MMO features lore that twists exist. The MMO features lore that twists existing tropes in a new way. For instance, in the DLC pack, The Elder Scrolls Online Greymoor, the player can investigate the Grey Host, a group of vampires, werewolves, and other ghastly creatures working together under Molag Bal. This sort of vampire-werewolf team-up is a complete reversal of the lore in the Dorngard DLC. To go with new lore, Elder Scrolls 6 should also take inspiration from a number of locations in each area of ESO. For instance, within Daggerfall, there are at least 4 distinct areas, each with its own environments, enemies, and quests, and they could all stand alone. This is all a really good sign for the future of ESO. I agree with I agree with Game Rant. I think that ESO is going to be around for a long, long time, going to continue to grow, and we want to be part of that lore and gameplay in Tyrs Paladium. So, on to Wizards of the Coast. Man, have they screwed up this Christmas time. Holy mackerel. Where do I even... Wizards of the Coast. I almost said croaked. Wizards of the Croaked. Okay. Wizards of the Coast have changed their OGL, their licensing agreements, in a very bad way. A word got out that they shut down 5 D&D games, video games, that were underway, either going to be developed or started. And man, I hate to hear stuff like that. But that's the reality of it. And they've tried to roll a few saving throws and save their butts, and they rewrote it, and it's still a hot mess. And nobody knows what's really going on. By canceling, in quote, out of quote, at least 5 video games. So really, Wizards of the Coast, pull back on its ambitions that they've been talking about. We were really excited about that. But it still has some projects on the go. So Dungeons and Dragons Online will not be affected, from what I'm told. And from our connection, Jerry Cordo, in Standing Stone Games, the developer of Dungeons and Dragons Online, DDO, DDO is totally and utterly unaffected. So, Wizards can screw up as much as they want. Hasbro and Wizards and Standing Stone Games just has a real phenomenal working relationship. DDO's going nowhere. It's not going to be affected by this at all. There's a lot of people nervous, and they should be, if they are publishers of a D&D game. I read about one game that is definitely being shut down. And that game was going to be created by Hidden Path Entertainment in a very, very embarrassing way. Wizards announced that their game was getting shut down, but they neglected to tell Hidden Path Entertainment. And they said, hey guys, to set the record straight on their Twitter that their game is not going to be shut down, to find out their game is being shut down just 24 hours later. So they didn't even get as much of a Twitter. It's just terrible. I hate it. So, a black eye, big time, for Wizards of the Coast. And they did it to themselves. Shame on you for putting people's jobs in jeopardy and just, or more than in jeopardy, people losing their jobs. It's terrible. It leaked out that about, a little bit under 15 people lost their jobs. I don't believe that for a second. I'm sure it's going to be significantly more than that. That's probably full-time jobs, but, there's a lot of part-timers that, are out of gigs. So that, it might affect 100 to 200 people at minimum, at least, with what's going on at Wizards of the Coast. That brings us to our next game that we're going to discuss, Baldur's Gate 3. I am pumped for Baldur's Gate 3. This is going to be the big release this year, and Tyrs Paladium will be all over Baldur's Gate 3. I just can't wait. They also, from what I understand, both reading and from a few inside sources, that Baldur's Gate 3 will not be affected. So Larian Studios, probably had a heads up on this, and there was likely too much money that has crossed paths between these companies. That's my guess, but I'm told that game will be completely unaffected, and that's rolling full steam ahead. So the OGL screw-up, the Open Gamers license, it is not going to affect Tyrs Paladium right now. It would have affected, if they released really cool games in the next few years. Yeah, it affects us that way in the future. We're not worried about it. Baldur's Gate 3 should be a blazing success. I have a lot of respect and faith in Larian to deliver an excellent game, and they're taking their time and letting people get a sneak peek in it. And, I've played it. It's got a ton of potential. So that might be a very, very good game. I'm excited about all the games, all the game chapters